What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Mamaverse podcast, where we bring experts in physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual wellness to talk about how moms can improve their overall health in their daily life. I'm your host, Tu-Hien Lee, and today we have Cait Lemieux as our guest. Cait is a feminine embodiment coach and business mentor. She guides women to detach from limiting beliefs while reconnecting with their body wisdom using powerful practices. Hi, Cait.
Hey, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Yes, thanks for joining us on the Mamaverse podcast. So, Cait, I want to dive right in, and I would love to hear more about your background and how you got inspired to start working in this field.
Yeah, for sure. It's an interesting journey. So yeah, as you mentioned, I'm an embodiment coach, feminine embodiment coach. I work a lot with women, moms, and also a business mentor. And it all started really about 10 years ago. I launched my business and I became a mom all at the same time, which many of us do. Like, I decided I was not going to go back to the corporate world. And so it was all exciting at first, but I started to fall into these burnout cycles and really just like physically pushing my body, mentally, like motherhood and starting a business at the same time. That's like a perfect recipe for a lot of negative self-talk and limiting beliefs. So that really, I was really just like driven by like this need to like prove myself both as a mother and a business owner, and that just created so much pressure to the point that with my second child 8 years ago, I fell into this really deep hole of postpartum depression, and I couldn't show up in either motherhood or my business in the way that I wanted to anymore. And so I'm very stubborn. And so I kind of, held on to that pushing and proving for a few years. And it wasn't until about 6 years ago that my body finally was like, that was it. I had to do something. And I started my healing journey and really just surrendered. And just through my own personal coaching that I've had and different therapies, different practices, I've just kind of now stepped into this role where I'm at a point in my life where I can empower other women. And so it's part of my healing journey as well to be able to give back. And yeah, that's kind of, I never would have thought in the beginning that this is what I'd be doing, but it's so fulfilling and I absolutely love it.
Yes, we love it. I think you're doing amazing work.
Thank you.
So you mentioned that you are a feminine embodiment coach. What exactly does that mean? And what does it mean to be like, what is embodiment?
Yeah, that's a question that I get all the time, because really embodiment, you can embody so many different things. It can be interpreted in so many different ways. So I can really speak to kind of feminine embodiment, and I can also speak to I guess framing it more in living an embodied life and what that looks like. And this is based on my definition through my own personal healing journey and my personal experience. So I can fill you in a little bit on what that is, what it means to me anyway. And what I help serve and what I help empower my clients kind of create in their lives. So ultimately, it's a feeling of being at home and centered in your body, feeling safe and grounded. But more than that, it's really an ability to connect and become aware of that really core, authentic part of yourself that's underneath all the layers of conditioning and limiting beliefs, which are all ultimately expressed through the body, like through our behaviors and our reactions. So it's that ability to connect with your body through those things and become aware of it. And through using different practices, you're able to regulate your nervous system and ground yourself in your body. And another thing I'll mention is that your subconscious mind is actually deeply connected with your body, and it's expressed through your body. So that embodiment is really having this deep awareness of everything that's going on. So we might just be like aware of a particular symptom, but we might not question why it's there. And a lot of our behaviors are connected to what's going on in our subconscious. So I won't go too deep into that, but it's also an ability to really be present in the moment, and to feel all the sensations, the emotional and the physical sensations, and know how to kind of navigate and move through them. And it's really sad, but some of the women, like, I just ran a group program, and the first call we had, the woman said, look, I just want to stop feeling, because it was just so much to feel. It was so much anxiety, and I've experienced that myself. And so living an embodied life, it's really about having that awareness to calm your nervous system, have the tools, and be able to be present with those feelings and be able to feel them all and honor them all. Because the more we try to push down and cram, the worse things get. And that's what happens in my postpartum journey. It came to a point where I had daily panic attacks, and I don't want that for anyone. So and the last piece I'll say, it's also an ability to consciously communicate and express your needs and your desires and your fears, which are actually cued by your body's response. So it's about really surrendering and letting your body kind of take the lead and guide you through life.
So if I understand correctly, it's pretty much connecting to your true self.
Yeah, really at the core of it. Like, because our bodies, we're so separated. A lot of us we feel like walking heads, and it's really all about like our thoughts and our racing thoughts a lot of the times. And so it's really like grounding yourself back into that body and listening to what it has to say as well.
Mm-hmm. So you think it's just like years, maybe even generations of conditioning that our conscious mind is saying, I should be doing these things, but our body is kind of saying, actually, no, you actually need to listen and do these things that are meant for you. And it's kind of like reconnecting the two.
Yeah, well, the conditioning is that we ignore those cues, right? We're disconnected from our body. And so it's tapping into that body wisdom. Our bodies are speaking to us all day long, but we're so busy and the busyness of life, especially as moms or as entrepreneurs, we have things to do, and we don't take the conscious step back to listen to our needs. And embodiment work is an amazing way to be able to do that. And I can't wait that I'm gonna share some simple ways you can get started.
Yeah. So actually that's my next question. So for, busy moms who might have multiple children, what's like the first step that they can do to start to like kind of practice this more embodiment?
Well, I think that we need to just like simplify things. Number one, it doesn't have to be this big thing. And healing is kind of intimidating in the sense that like a lot of inner work is really heavy, and there's a lot to do, but embodiment is great in the sense that you can do like practices that take 2 minutes in a day, and it can relieve so much tension that you have pent up in your body.
Is this like meditating or?
No, I would say I have some other like for me, breath work has been really because meditating, you're still very much in the headspace, and so it's really about bringing yourself back down into your body. So breathing, breath work techniques has been an amazing tool that I started with, that was kind of connected in with my meditation practice, because honestly, when I first started my healing journey and was told to meditate, I wasn't able to sit there for 2 minutes and calm my mind. It seemed like next to impossible. So a lot of the times when I'm working with moms who are in that vibration of super high anxiety, breath work is the next best thing, because all you're really doing is breath work. It's a fancy word, but it's bringing conscious awareness to your breath. And there are different patterns of breathing based on, whether you're trying to calm your system or maybe you're trying to energize. Like at 4 p.m. I'll do an energizing breath to like get me through the rest of the afternoon instead of like pumping myself with caffeine. So breath work is definitely something that is super easy that you can do with your eyes opened or your eyes closed, whether you have kids next to you, whether you're in the car. I've been known to, if I go grocery shopping, I'll come home and I'll sit in the driveway for a couple minutes to just like reboot myself before I head into the house, back into the craziness. So it's something that moms can work into their lives very easily, and it has such a big impact. So that's definitely one that I would say to like get started. That's simple. And another one would be embodied dance. So I really encourage women to have different songs for different seasons throughout their cycle. And that's something I'm going to speak to in a minute, but to really like release a lot of the tension and like let go of the need to look good, and that ego, just like jumping around, whatever that looks like. But they're releasing tension and stuck energy within their bodies through movement. And that can look like a lot of different things. Like each person is unique in their way of dancing. But I found that shaking, like just shaking your arms while you're jumping around, that's a really, really fun way. And even in heavy moments, I've used that. So it's just finding some movements that you find works for you to, release that stuck energy.
Mm-hmm. So you did touch upon it, talking about cycle awareness.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about what that is?
Definitely. So cycle awareness, is the number one tool that I have used in my healing journey. It's a way to radically self-accept ourselves as women, especially, and to break out of that like linear, predominantly masculine way of being in society, which is really grounded in that push and hustle mentality, and goes against our natural cycles. Like we are cyclic beings as women. We go through hormonally, physically, emotionally, we go through different phases throughout the month. And so to fight against that just is counterintuitive. And it's what leads us a lot of the time to these burnout cycles, because we've been conditioned to kind of maintain the same level of productivity and beauty standard and energy throughout the month. And it's exhausting. And it's a pressure that we put on ourselves as well, especially as mothers. So the cycle awareness, it's been a really amazing way of just honoring that fact that we are cyclical, and that as cyclic beings, we also have different needs throughout the month, and those needs adjust depending on where we're at.
Can you give us some examples as far as where we are in our cycle and how that might impact what we should be doing or might be feeling, and how to work around that?
Yeah, well, it's going to be different and this is what I kind of help a little bit one-on-one with women to navigate exactly what that looks like for them. But ultimately, the way you can look at it is we have 4 seasons. So spring, summer, fall, and winter. And in each one of those, we have different energies, different hormone levels, different emotional things that are going on. And so just becoming aware of that, and then using a simple, like I have a cycle chart that I can, where is it? I usually have it on, yeah, it's right here. I use this simple chart that people can get in touch with me if they want a free copy. But you're just plotting out even one word per day and checking in where you're at, and just bringing awareness to those 4 seasons as you go along. It can be an amazing tool to kind of get you started and start to recognize your patterns. And once you recognize the patterns, you can start to kind of almost predict them and counteract them with a self-care act. Or, if you know that in your fall season, like many of us, we feel, angry or reactive, then we can then say, okay, this is my toolbox of self-care during my fall cycle. So I won't go too much into detail because it can look different for everyone, but it's really about, I guess, becoming aware and curious about exploring how you show up in the different cycles throughout the month.
So there's the seasonal cycles, and then there's also cycles through the month. So are there like kind of general tips, like, during your period, you should try to avoid these type of activities? Or
well, you don't want to be doing like high intensity workouts for sure. And resting and rest, it doesn't mean that you're just like laying in bed. There's lots of things, I think, too, changing the perspective of what rest can be. It can just be taking a walk, or using more mindfulness practices. So while you're doing the dishes, you're consciously becoming aware of the water and things like that, and that can be restful for your system. So yeah, and I guess another tip with that is that you can actually start to use, like I use my Google Calendar and I plot out my cycle on my calendar, and I kind of know what season. Okay, I'm going to be in spring season, so I'm going to book podcasts and interviews around my spring and summer seasons. And life happens. We can't always have it work out like that, but as much as possible, you start to align your life with what's going on with your body, and it becomes easier. Like I'm excited to show up for these kind of interviews, whereas in my winter season, I just want to go write in my journal and chill. And so I won't take, as a photographer as well, I won't take photo shoots during those 3 or 4 days. So yeah, that's really how we can start to kind of structure our lives in line with our bodies.
So there are certain times of the month, like during our cycle, that it's like the get shit done time.
Yeah,
the masculine
definitely.
energy time. I guess that would be like masculine energy, right? Like just very
goal and
goal oriented.
I'm really glad that you brought that up, because we all have masculine and feminine energy. And it's not that I'm against masculine energy. Masculine energy is awesome for getting shit done. But the problem is we have this imbalance, right? Most of us are in that masculine because that's what the conditioning is. And so in your bridging it from your summer to your spring to summer, and then into your summer phase, that's when you're going to have the highest levels of estrogen and testosterone. And that's when you're going to physically, emotionally, mentally be more aligned with getting stuff done. So but there's a light and a shadowed side to each one of the phases. And I dive into this in my courses, like on a deeper level. But the shadowed side to that season, it would be pushing yourself too much and not setting boundaries and burning out. So we want to avoid that. We want to have that awareness of that balance of the masculine and feminine energies, and taking advantage of the gifts that they both have throughout the month.
I guess I'm a little bit unclear of when you say cycle awareness, should we be looking at more like seasonally, like annually?
Do you mean no, every month we go through 4 seasons. So it's not like,
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry if I didn't explain that, but yes, every month. So on my cycle tracker chart, you're going to have, there's 28 days, but not everyone is a 28-day cycle. There's a spot for extra days, but throughout that, you'll see that there's 4 blocks for the different seasons. So every month we go through those seasons.
I see.
Yeah. It's nothing to do with the weather outside.
Okay. Okay.
No, it's our
I
inner,
misunderstood that.
Yeah. And it's the inner seasons is what you call it. Yeah.
Oh, I see. So then we can be more mindful as busy moms and entrepreneurs of like where we are in the cycle, how we're probably going to feel, how our energy is going to feel, and then book like launches or like big vacations or like big events around that so that we
Exactly.
can show up, I mean, like the best that we can, right?
Aligned, because it's aligned with our physical, mental, everything. Like it feels better. We're not pushing against the grain. So and the great thing is that when we start to do this, and especially in the winter season is the most important, especially when we're in these burnout cycles. A lot of the women I speak to are. um, it's really becoming aware of the fact that we undervalue that rest phase, because when we don't give ourselves that rest in our winter season, which is our period,
Mm.
we are not able to come back in our spring season with our full energy. And so it impacts the entire rest of your cycle. So when you have that knowledge and awareness that that rest time is actually super productive, because it's what's the foundation for the rest of the seasons. So
Mm.
that simple shift and awareness has changed a lot in my clients.
Yeah, I would say personally, I'm one of those people that are constantly pushing
Yeah.
and tired at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, but I
Yeah.
probably don't give myself that rest during, my period,
Yeah.
like you mentioned. So is everybody's seasons pretty much the same, like winters during the period and then fall, spring? So
Yeah. It followed
everybody might.
PMS, like leading up
Mm,
premenstrual, and yeah, and then spring, like the spring and some summer meeting, like where they
mm,
come together, that's ovulation. And so
mm.
yeah, I have charts and everything that explain this, but yeah, it is the same for everybody. We all have those 4 seasons, but they show up at different times. Sometimes people have shorter springs, longer summers, so everyone's body is different. But when you have that awareness, and when you've been tracking your inner season, and bringing mindfulness to how you're feeling in each day, after a few cycles of that, you kind of get to know the time frames of your seasons, and you can plan
Mhm.
accordingly. So it's really the foundation of self-care, because a lot of us are like, we have a couple of self-care practices that we do, but we might not be using like the most practical or beneficial self-care practice in the season that we're in. So like if I'm in my summer season, when I'm like really wanting to be active and get stuff done, I'm not
Mhm.
necessarily going to want to be sitting in the bubble bath or resting in my bed. I want to like do something active for my self-care. So I'll go to a yoga class, or my self-care could actually be going for a drink with my friends. Like it's about also reframing what self-care is.
I love this. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what would you say if you could give a mom one tip on just even starting with cycle awareness? Like where should they start, and then what should they do with this?
Yeah, I think starting to track your cycle, that's
Mm,
a main thing. You can definitely head to my website riseandembody.com, and you can get your free cycle tracker. If you don't want to do that, just simply start marking in your calendar, like on your Google Calendar, or get an app so that you are start to become aware of your cycle, and try to map out your monthly activities around the times when it's going to feel most aligned for you. Because once you do that for a few months, you'll realize how much more powerful you show up, and how much more aligned and easy it feels when you do that.
yeah, that's great. I imagine just like easy and more efficient, like you're
Yeah,
showing
definitely
up
more
like
efficient.
full
Yeah.
on when you have the energy, and you're resting when you should be. I love this. Like this is all new to me. So I mean, I
Oh,
love
yeah.
this. So
Yeah.
so Cait, where can our audience find you and connect with you?
Sure. So another thing I would mention, just a little bonus tip in there, it's so important to connect with a circle of women and like-minded women who are on this journey with you, and like even start an accountability pod. So the women in my groups have started to create messenger chats, and they hold each other accountable for tracking. So you can find us at the Rise Women community on Facebook, and you can, whether you join one of our programs or not, you can even just post, hey, looking for an accountability pod or partner for cycle tracking, and likely find some women who would be happy to join you in that. Otherwise, I'm at riseandembody.com if you want to check out some of the programs I do have to offer. And the same on Instagram. I'm at Rise and Embody.
Yes. Well, this was very educational for me. I know our audience is going to find so much value from this, and just being just aware of this could be game changing, and how we run our lives and schedule around. Because, I think moms do a lot of the scheduling of things to do, like just could be a game changer in how we show up for all the things that we do. So
it totally is. And it's not even just, it's a game changer for us, but it impacts how we parent. It impacts how we show up in our relationship. Like my partner is all about this cycle tracking. Like, so it really, it is a game changer. It changes your whole life having this simple awareness.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Cait, thank you so much for joining us on the Mamaverse podcast. I encourage all the listeners and people tuning in to give Cait a follow on Instagram. We'll have everything linked in the show notes. And also, thanks for joining us again. It was so educational. So, everybody who is listening, thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next episode.
Thanks.